Okay. This is Muriel Gerhard. I'm sharing with you some vignettes or stories from my life, and it's from my book called Now That I'm Dead. I decided to write this book. The name of this vignette is Crossed Eyes and Crossed Paths. She didn't talk much. One had to say that she kept to herself. She would go to sleep, humming a tune to herself as she gazed at the wall adjacent to her bed. A feeling of sadness overwhelmed me as I watched her. My bed was about 4 feet away. I would lie there in silence. I didn't expect her to speak much, to say one word. I just accepted her as if she was the atmosphere, as if it was that she had just created that kind of an atmosphere. My cousin Shirley was the quiet, all by myself type. The message was there as if it were written in black and white. Do not enter. Silent zone. We were both in high school. We were attending the Seward Park High School Annex. We rose each morning in complete silence, washed, dressed, grabbed some orange juice in the kitchen, picked up our books, which were tied together with an old belt, put on our jackets, and then proceeded to trudge the 20 blocks. Yes, 20 blocks across the city to the Annex. My father had been diagnosed as having a serious nervous breakdown and was in a sanitarium. From what I could understand, my father was overstressed and couldn't deal with his job or his life. My mother was supervising the drugstore which we owned. Mama had given up our apartment in a well-kept tenement house. In fact, as my cousin Ida reminds me so frequently, Zeldy, that was my nickname, Zeldy, you lived in a 6-story apartment house with an elevator and an elevator man. I guess she was impressed too. To continue, Mama and I moved into Mama's youngest sister's home. Her name was Esther. She lived in a 2-story private house resembling a brownstone on Henry Street. She had what was described as a railroad apartment of 7 rooms plus a bathroom. She was a widow who had been left with 3 children to raise. Oscar, the oldest, was 18, Jack, the middle child, was 16, and Shirley, the youngest, was my age, 14. So here I was, sharing a room with my cousin Shirley. I was not welcomed or unwelcomed. I was just assigned a bed and some space in a closet, and that was that. I don't believe either of us, Shirley or I, gave it much thought. We just accepted what had happened and silently told ourselves that we would make the best of it, whatever the hell that meant. At first, I could sense the sadness in our room and in our relationship, and then things changed. Things changed drastically. My cousin Shirley had been born with an eye defect. She was what they described as cross-eyed. Her eyes were not symmetrical as ours are. One eye looked one way, the other eye looked in the opposite direction. Other than this condition, she was what I would call very pretty. She had good features, high cheekbones, thick brown hair that she wore in the style of the day. A page boy. She was slim and very athletic. To return to what I was saying, one day things changed drastically. Shirley, who rarely spoke, confided in me that she was going to the Eye and Ear Clinic in New York City, located on 13th Street, for an examination and a consultation. She confided in me, they might be able to straighten my eyes. The consultation was on Saturday. Since we were brought up as Orthodox Jews, we were not allowed to ride on the Sabbath. I volunteered to walk with her. So each Saturday, we put on our best clothes and walked to the clinic and then back home. Shirley had an operation, and 6 months later, my cousin was transformed into one beautiful young lady, a beautiful young lady who found herself and her voice. She was no longer a wallflower or someone people just passed over with pity in their eyes. As life would have it, my father recovered from his nervous breakdown and we moved into our own apartment. Shirley and I separated, but we had become friends. I was more than her cousin Zeldie. I was her friend. We both had dreams to realize. We both had roads to take. College was a mutual goal. Shirley and I worked for an art company during the summer so we could earn money in order to go to Brooklyn College. The next summer, we worked in a watch factory for $13 a week, would you believe? And finally, we did it. There we were at 7 o'clock each morning at the 6th Avenue subway station, catching the train to Brooklyn College. Shirley majored in mathematics, and I studied biology. Each of us moved on to attain our goals, and our lives moved in different directions. We married, attended each other's weddings, spoke of each other's children, and then, for whatever reason, yet to be determined, we lost track of each other. The years, they fly by, especially when we're all busy attaining our goals. The kids, they grow, they mature. We all get up caught in our own lives, our communities, and somehow we lose our connections. The phone rang the other day. A voice asked, "Hello? Are you Zeldie?" "Why, yes," I replied, wondering who it was, and recognizing that only members of my family called me Zeldie. To my friends and coworkers, I was Muriel. "Yes," I replied, being very curious. "I am Zeldie." The voice went on. "I'm Joy. I'm Shirley's daughter. I'm trying to locate my cousin Oscar. Maybe you can help me." I was shocked. I was speechless. And then it was as if some giant bubble had burst. "Hello, Joy," I shouted over the phone. "Of course I remember you. How is Shirley?" There was a pause. Then my heart seemed to stop as I heard, "My mom and dad are dead." I was silent. And then it was as if a dam had broken. I was talking and talking and talking, sharing all of my memories with Shirley's daughter. I was back in that house on Henry Street, where I had been given a temporary home. I was helping someone face an ordeal that could yield uncertain consequences. We had both met our commitments to each other. Yes, I thought as the tears filled my eyes. There had been times when we needed each other, and whether it was her crossed eyes or the need for shelter, our paths had crossed, and we had been there for each other. I was back there in our shared room on Henry Street. I was there wondering how we had the strength and resiliency to move with our lives. And then I was here, feeling the guilt of not having been close over all these years. I recalled once Shirley and Artie had visited us in Connecticut. Somewhere there were pictures capturing the occasion. I searched and found them. There we were on the back lawn, middle-aged folks, Shirley and Artie, and my husband Sid and me, sharing our ups and downs, smiling at the camera, sending our message. We had made it. And then, as if someone flicked a switch, I was back in the kitchen. "Joy," I shouted on the phone, "let's get together." She agreed. I put down the phone and found myself listening to some distant voice. "Shirley," I called. "For God's sake, Shirley, stop humming. Your daughter and I have a lot of catching up to do." The tears flowed, but as Mama used to say, "Gar nicht helfen." Nothing helps. I failed to quell my sorrow. I failed to quell my guilt.